David.
We're going to be
David.
going over that because we're over budget. I thought if everybody's going to be here, we're over a budget on the line. So we
AC meeting.
move forward. Or if I have money in the line, we'll just do it. Unfortunately, we're over budget on the line.
You're right.
And we'd like to do it. Because of the local demand. Okay. We're live now.
All right, folks,
Okay.
we're on video. Obviously, we don't have a quorum. So this is an information session.
Guys,
And
Dr. Hamilton,
and the
we're going to start the meeting now.
and the camera is on.
You have my permission.
All right?
Okay.
And
Yes, I'm gonna start off with the chiller because it's also part of the air conditioning, and it's something that's going to have to be repaired if we're going to have a good analysis after the whole project is done. We did get the water sample back, which I told you in the last meeting, which failed. We went in there, and in this report that you open up, you'll see and go to the pages where the tubes are. We've basically have 30-something tubes, okay, that are damaged, okay. They can only block or top cap off a total of 15, if I'm not mistaken, okay. 130, and there's 130 inside of it. So right now that chiller is not going to be running as efficient, okay, and we're going to have problems because we can only block so many, and water will get back into that compressor and it will shoot. So this thing is 13 years old, okay, and it's on a 15-year life expectancy of it. So we're looking that we're going to have to replace that chiller, okay. There's no doubts about it that if you're going to do this project and you can't get your water the way you got to have the water, you got to do it at the same time, you know, or before. But it's just, again, guys, remember it was 13 years ago, and so that everybody understands, it's just like your car running from 6 o'clock in the morning to, what is it,
11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. I don't care what you have on there, it's a piece of mechanical equipment, it's going to have to be maintained, and also it's going to break down, you know. So you only have so much on it, and today's, and I can tell you from my experience over the years of air conditioning equipment, it's not being made the same way it used to be made, okay? Things are just lighter, metals, the whole works, and it's breaking down quicker, because normally these things will go over 20 years, okay? This is 13 years, and we already had problems with this before, you know? So I just wanted to bring that up because we're going to get prices on that, because it's something that I think if we're going to go with the air conditioning project, okay, that it needs to be also replaced at the same time, so that when it's done, you're making an evaluation of the building humidity. If it's not working right, you're going to get humidity inside here. You've got to have it running operational right if you're going to go through that expense.
Dan and Monica, I'm hearing a lot of projects. Is this going to be reflected in the next budget?
Honestly, Dave, I don't know where we're gonna be with the next budget.
Well, assuming you don't have a legal printing press, I mean, right?
No, I do not, and I don't know where we will be in, you know, our arbitration process.
Pick you up if you don't
You
stop.
know,
Okay.
presumably we will, put the air conditioner project in the budget. It'll be reviewed with the committee. Should you choose to take it out, you know, that's gonna be your call, how we move forward. Unfortunately, this is all coming at a
The
most
camera,
inconvenient time.
the camera won't pick you up good unless you do that. Just to let you know.
Thanks, John.
So we'll have to see how that plays out, you know, when we start having budget meetings.
This is not till what, September, October?
Probably, you know, typically we would start meeting in August.
Okay.
So probably late August, I would say.
Again, the reason I'm bringing that up is just because we were waiting for that report, okay? And now I'm seeing, and you'll read over that report, it tells you areas very, very well defined exactly what went on, okay? And also the water samples that we took that came back, okay? pour with water inside the oil, so that's not a good thing for compressing, you know, so.
Can I ask one question? Are you proposing, or would you be proposing, Dan, in the next budget year to address some of these damaged tubes? And then you're saying include replacing the chiller at a later date?
I've already repaired, I had to get this building, that's the reason that you feel it cooler inside here. They've done repairs to the tubes, and I'll let Kevin get on to that too, but, we did the repairs because we had to get that unit up. It's 90 degrees out there, okay? So it was a $3,500 cost to get that and change the oils, whatever, but I'm saying we got it up and running. We don't know how long it's gonna last, okay? Because we still have certain tubes there that are going to leak water by, okay? So, but we had to get this thing up and running. There's no way that, but that's the only amount of tubes that we could block, or it just won't be efficient. You're running and you're just wasting electricity, you know, okay, from that.
Okay.
There's certain things that I'm not gonna, I gotta do to make the building, because if not, it was just getting too humid inside here, you know, okay? Yes.
Can we ask questions while you're talking?
Of
or
course,
is
if you like.
The cost of replacing the chiller, is that included in the 4.5 to 5 million that we've been here?
No.
Okay. Just wanted
I hate to go back to the same mantra, but if you're replacing, there's no doubt that that's a capital.
Again, I'm not getting, my job is to bring up these things, you guys, or whatever is going on. I have to bring up because if I don't fix it, and it's humidity out there, okay, my job is to continue to keep going forward, okay? I'm advising you what's going on and how it comes about, that's down the road here, okay? But we're gonna get prices for that chiller replacement, and again, it's a chiller that's failing, and it needs to be restored, okay? But it's not adding a new chiller, okay? So it's adding a replacement. So I don't know how that falls into what everybody's going through here. Is everybody? All right, any other, before I keep on going?
No, make your presentation.
Okay, so that was that on the debonair thing, and we'll try to see if that's something, again, when we discuss it in the meeting, if it should be done during the project also, okay? So there was a couple of items I just want to bring up, and I know you have the PDF for the plan, so if you want to look through those plans and come back to me and ask questions on that. But a lot of the things that Dom, you have talked about in those meetings we had prior to here, how we're hanging the ductwork, how that's all been specified in the drawings, okay? It's really, I want you to understand, we went with the type of system, the isoline, over any other. All the engineers highly recommended, because of the added space that we have up there and the access that we need to get up there, that plastic didn't work in the first time and will not work in the long term. So the isoline would be the method of going forward, which would remove all the insulation that's inside there, cover all the vent holes that are located on the outside. Exhaust fans will be taken out completely, okay? And then that will become a very cool space after that isoline in. And then if anybody had to pop above the ceiling to do any repairs on the duct work or the VAVs that we're going to be putting up here on these on the upper story, easy access, no problems, okay, of damaging that plastic. Does everybody understand that the boundary that we're looking right now? There's a piece of plastic just above the ceiling, and everywhere you went, or anybody that went above it and didn't repair it, there's holes everywhere. So that's what they call the vapor barrier, to keep the heat from above and below, so you don't do the sweating that's going on here. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. The other thing that came up that they took a long time analyzing, and that's why we didn't get it for a while, was the electrical. Okay. The electrical, making sure that we had enough amperage here to handle the heat strips when they all fully come on. Okay, because they weren't working, and some of them didn't even have heat strips like the party room, okay? To be able to remove the humidity, okay? So they made a change, the one that's up in the theater, okay? And the theater is working the best of everything that we had here. The humidity levels, everything was always okay. But they used to have a heat wheel inside there, piped all the way down for a future boiler, which never went through, okay? One, that it would have to be a gas type boiler, okay? And it was gonna be an expense, and plus the gas would be an expense, okay? And for the frequency that we use it, it was not going through. So they decided to go with the electric heat strips for the theater, and including also the party room, which was never working, okay? Was a big gigantic demand, about, it's 150 amps, okay? To tell you, each one of those two upstairs and downstairs, so that's 300 amps that we were adding to this whole thing out here, okay? So they just wanted to make sure that when they added everything together and came on, that we wouldn't have any problems down here with our switchgear. So that came back 100% with that. We looked at accessibility on how we could limit the cost of replacing. There are certain areas, and you'll see in the drawings, okay, what they have to take out in the grid to replace the ductwork, okay? The hardest part and the most expensive parts are the corridors, due to the fact that they're fire rated, okay? So you have to remove the grid plus the sheetrock, okay? To get to it, you can't get it from above because they closed it all in, okay? To remove that. Another area that was a little bit complex, and a lot of the ceiling is coming down, is the party room, which we have the most problems with. And that's going to be a field vision, because the engineers went up there, and if you go into the little kitchen area where we have in the party room, above that, to the right of that, is where there's located the IT room, where all the wires come in for low voltage and all. And it's all over the place, okay? So they have to cut out the block to get in nicely to the other side of the building, okay? And they're going to, again, when everything is down, so that you can see it a little bit better to how you're going to do to run the ductwork. Because right now it's showing that it's going to run across all the way to the back side of where you enter the party room, okay? And then feed back upward. If it's easier to feed the opposite way, okay, and be able to use that space, they're going to try it that way. So the plans might change, and that would be a field decision when they open up the ceiling to see which is going to be the most accessible and easiest way to do it, and less cost, okay? If they do it that way and it's less cost, they'll take it off the building, you know, so we'll monitor it that way. There is a fire rating, okay, when you're coming through the walls, okay? So there are fire dampers that will be put in between the two buildings in that space that you see when we're walking through, right?
Is that still 1 hour fire rating?
Yes.
Is it still 1 hour?
Yeah. Okay. And remember, that could be a little bit more too, because we have that's going to be a return air plenum above the ceiling. So they might change that. Prior to that, it was a duct return, okay? So that's something that before we start the job, when we have a meeting with the building department, like I have with major projects, we sit down and we discuss it, and that'll be the fire marshal and all the head of the structural on the concrete, because you had a situation that happened here with the theater where we had to fill the block, okay, to get that ready, okay? I'm pretty sure, I'm hoping, you know, that when they did the renovation, that they took care of all these little problems, you know? Just don't know, you know? Yeah. Without spending, you know, trying to analyze and going through that, just, you can't. It's just costly to look at that, and you have to have everything opened up and everything sealed with a return air plenum. Everything's got to be sealed, you know, no holes through the blocks, things like that. The other situation that we had was the roof. In the theater, you're putting 3 new units up there, okay? They're bigger units, and they're carrier units, okay? They have to be reinforced, 2 of them, okay? Not too much of a problem, because the 2 that we're reinforcing is up where the balcony area is, so you don't have to set up too much scaffolding to get to that, okay? But to tear that grid, it's a little bit different than this grid, you know? And they have to make big enough openings to weld, okay, and also redo the ductwork inside there, okay? As you take off the old unit, put the new unit in, you have to put the ductwork back in place, and you have to reinforce that, okay, with the steel for the weight capacity of it. So when you look at that, they can't use the same curves that are up there, so those curves have to be removed. The curves, new curves, have to be put in place. So we did a analysis, doing a core analysis of the roof. Now this is the roof that we had a problem with, and we were putting it into the budget to replace.
And we're looking to put that in this scope of work because it just does not, it does not do fairness to go in there, tear this up in these big hole patches, okay, where I'm going to be tearing a good 3, 4, 5 feet away from that unit to flash it in, okay? And they're big size hole openings. Those units are gigantic, okay? So we're looking at to put the roof into the specs of work, which I'll show you. It was designed and drawing, and it'll be sent out to you probably by tomorrow to add to the drawings that you have there, so that the contractors are bidding on that. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense to flash that and then leave the roof, which we already know we have problems with. Okay, it's in my experience of doing that kind of work, and later to try to flash that back over again is your opportunity to flash it now while you're putting the new air conditioning units in. Okay, everything is to save money. It's not that I'm not trying to add this. It's just you're going to do it sooner or later because that roof was already repatched it with elastomeric. We've tried to go as long as we could, but that's the original roof from way back, you know, when we first started 2005. Okay. Any questions on those? Go ahead.
The AC is going to be just the one unit chillers on the roof supplying the AC, or are you going to have the individual ACs in the ceiling?
This is a chill water loop system. Your
Okay.
chill water, your chillers are located in the chiller room, the
Right.
250,
Right.
150-ton units, okay? 2 of them that supply chill water throughout the building to all these air handlers on inside
So
here.
you're not going to have any ceiling ACs?
No, no.
Okay. Okay, just curious. You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yes, no package units, nothing like that above the ceilings. We have some split units here. They'll continue to stay wherever they're at, okay?
Right.
But no, your main air conditioning units inside here is a chill water loop system
And
inside.
each room will have its own,
In here, like if you looked at the drawings, now again, I sent this out. So I don't know if you sent it, if you look at those drawings, okay, if you have a question, I know Don will be able to answer that fast. We've been through this already.
Okay.
There's VAV boxes
Right.
in every one of these that are being controlled by the thermostat, okay?
Good.
They will control a certain temperature and keep, like in here might have 5, okay? So every part of the room will be, the cooling system will be distributed evenly and what we want it set at, okay? What that does right now, let's say for instance, if that unit right now is just feeding this room and some other room, okay? Without, that other room could be cold. If we want to make this warmer, that would be warm, okay? In this case, the VAVs will close off, okay? Keeping this at a certain temperature, still keeping that one cooler if they need the air to come through. How does that help us too in the long run? And anything that you could control that accurately shuts down the chillers over there, okay? And that's where your big amperage and your big money. If they're not being used as much, they shut down, they go there in stages and they shut down. So that's what the VAVs, if you put them in here enough to control that temperature, will control your electricity bill out there. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
I know you just said that all that you just presented, which I'm not an engineer, sounds like a mouthful, that's not included in the 4.5 million that we've been talking about. This is all addition, is that correct?
The only portion that the chiller and the roof portion of it, okay, would be probably because you got, it's partially was already inside there, okay? So you're adding just a little bit more because of the rest of the roof, okay? Yes. But because we're putting the 3 big units up on that roof, the flat roof over the theater, okay, there was roofing already included in that price. We're putting more for doing it. Instead of patching it, you're redoing the roof up there. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm being way up there without doing it, that's all. But yes, so that might be another expense to that, okay? And again, you're gonna get an accurate when this goes out to bid. I'm gonna hand out this, yes, I'm gonna hand you out, these are the contractors, okay? The 3 that are going, they're
I know what you just said. What would be, if you could do it, an educated guess of all this additional work? It doesn't have to be the penny that you're bidding, but can you give me or everybody else an idea from your experience what this would run? Would it be 50,000, 100, 150,000?
It's not fair to put me in that kind because it's such a complex amount, and I could get you this answer by next month, okay?
Okay.
Really an accurate number through contractors, okay, to be able to get an accurate number, and I'm not going to,
especially today, they're contracting equipment,
Yeah.
and everything is out of sight on construction.
And I was gonna get you there. I had a meeting with the manufacturers, okay, coming in here. That means Carrier, okay, the phone guy, everything, okay? Just want you to, I mentioned this to Monica. From this point on, okay, a 2 to 5% increase every single month, okay? Now, my question was, and I asked this question, I says, well, why would I do anything right now? They don't expect the prices to come down, okay? They expect it to level off, and it might be years before they start dropping down, okay? So we have not just seen yet the fallout of this, and it's gonna continue to keep going out of this number percentage-wise. So the longer you wait, the more it's gonna cost you, okay? That's the way the world is running right now, not just this project. These are projects that I'm running right now in Central Village in Boca doing the theater, and right now there's plywood and also metal studding that I had to give them money ahead of time to try to lock down the price so that we won't get these increases that they're expecting, you know? So with Carrier, all those manufacturers were saying, and they'll have to provide lettering, okay, from the manufacturers of the increases, okay? If you put out a bid today, any contractor, they're gonna put in there, they're gonna save their butts on it. They can't give you an accurate bid. If anything happens in the change, you're gonna have to pay that change that you go along. That's how it's going out there, okay? Because you can't lock down on a contract, you know? So, it's just the way the world is right now.
Tell them, Dan, about the price of lumber. I
Yeah,
mean, just
well,
as an example.
plywood went up 85%, okay? So you're looking at a $30-some dollar piece of plywood that went up to 90 to, well, you know, $90, okay? Because I have 3/4 plywood over there. I had a stack of, you buy them in stacks, okay? It was $10,000 sitting there. So that's just gold right now, wood, you know? There is some, I heard some of the sawmills are starting to get some of the workers back. It's another thing is trying to get the workers. And the demand here in Florida is heavy. The demand, the amount of people coming into this state and the way they're building is above normal. And yet the demand for trying to get all this stuff is very hard. So everybody's running in. I had a contractor on the West Coast, I know exactly because my brother is a contractor on the West Coast, had to come over here to get cinder blocks. That's how bad it is over there, because that's how bad things are going in the construction world, you know. So, and it's a crazy time. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think anybody else has. And you know, COVID is the first kind of thing that started most of all this stuff. So we got it, and it's just not gonna. We closed this country, you know, for a year and a half. It's not gonna just boom up that quickly. And all those, remember, when you do something to supply a country like ours, it's only a minimal. You don't expect it. That's why when hurricanes come, your supply demand goes. They only supply a certain amount, and they don't make above that, and they're not going to go above that. It just it doesn't pay to do that. So now you just got to catch up. That's all it is. You know. Any other questions? You said you had some few questions.
Yeah, I have the drawings that I got are 8.5 by 11, but with my microphone and my magnifying glass, I read them yesterday and today, and I noticed that at least 50 or 60% of the first floor and the second floor of the ceilings need to come down. And my question is, if we're taking down that much of the ceiling, what percentage of the current air conditioning system is going to be replaced? Is it 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%?
It's almost half, okay, of what's coming down in these rooms. The reason that it doesn't necessarily, the architect or the designer says, okay, to get that piece of ductwork, because how it links, you know, it's really how these connect, okay, right, to take it down, all right? So again, it's going to be a field question. If we're going to replace, like in the party, the majority of all that ductwork, everything's got to come down. It's easier to work that way, or labor's just going to cost you that much more if you leave it up there.
Yeah, my question is, if I got to take down half the ceiling on the first floor and half the ceiling on the second floor, I'm removing 60, 75, 80% of what's up there, and now if you're adding 3 chillers on top of that, I'm replacing the entire air conditioning system, basically. 75, 80% of it is being replaced.
Well, no.
What?
No.
How do you say no?
I'm gonna say no because you've got a big expense of the air conditioning, okay, which we just did, okay, when it comes to the chillers. And all that piping out and the cooling tower, okay? The
Yeah.
pumps that are out there. You're looking at hundreds and hundreds of thousands of
We know
dollars,
that.
if half a million, probably just sitting right outside in that one little room out there, okay?
Okay.
All right? When we're talking about here, you're not talking about the chill water pipes that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace. You're talking about, we're already replacing 15 out of the, how many air handlers?
No. Air handlers?
Yes.
26.
Okay? And we're not replacing 50% of the ductwork, 60%, okay? So, no, we're not nowhere near replacing the whole air conditioning system inside here. We're probably millions of that away from that. This is a very expensive ordeal to put this type of chill water loop system inside here. Somebody asked me, why don't we convert it, like go back to heat pumps? Well, then you run into not only all the air
Electrical
handlers,
draw.
you know, all the air handlers, the draw from that, the electrical draw that you would have to do, plus all the piping and everything would have to be changed around, okay, to have that in the cooling tower. Instead of the water going back to the chillers, it's gonna have to come back from the cooling tower to make that happen, like the other two facilities, okay? So you got a gigantic expense no matter which way you go, you know? But to answer your question, no, we're not anywhere near, anywhere replacing the whole.
Well, you said close to 50%.
Well, close
So-
to 50%, I'm saying on the portion of ductwork, and, let's say, go to about 30-something% on just the air handlers, okay? Okay, so, no, we're not nowhere near to replace this whole air conditioning system. There's too much, there's a lot. If you add the other 20, the other, 10-something air handlers that you have to replace, all the piping inside here, all the valves, you know, from, the shut-offs for the chill water, you add the chiller building, the cooling towers, you know, it's a lot of money.
On your professional level, stupid question. If I was building this building today, what would it cost me to install an air conditioning system in here?
I know, I understand, but I
You understand?
can't,
If I was.
you know, with the cost of things the way they are right now, I could tell you, you might as well say double, you know?
If I was building this building, it would cost so much per square foot to install an air conditioning system and then
Now,
from
remember,
scratch
when you
today.
install, let's say, I'm an electrician, so if
Okay.
for me to renovate this place, it's gonna cost you 3 times more. For me to do it when it's coming off the ground is a lot cheaper.
I understand.
So that's not a good assessment.
Well, I'm just asking, if there was no air conditioning in the system, how much, in your experience, would a person come in, a contractor, and charge you to install a new air conditioning system, a current, in today's day? Is it-
I would tell you, as the electrical
$10 million?
knowledge of my side,
Yeah,
by looking at the size of this building, I would say it's 3 times, okay, what it would be for renovating this internally like right now, compared to going off the ground, It's brand new. Because roughing in something when it's coming off the ground is a lot simpler.
it's a lot easier
The
to
air
run home
conditioning,
runs. I know how to
so I
run
would
a
say
home
the
run,
same
yeah.
thing with the air conditioning. So if you're getting an idea of what this cost would be here,
Yeah.
that's why, because it's all, and if it was all open ceiling, and the ductwork when we were doing the construction back in, when it was being renovated, during the hurricane, that's what you saw, it was all nice and open. Everybody could do what they wanted to do, put everything, and go in stages of putting what you wanted up there. It's a lot cheaper to do it that way, you know?
I understand.
Remember back then, you ran a bit, I'm just telling you the pricing off the top of my head. During the air conditioning phase that they did over there, okay, because it was a hurricane, you're also gonna be paying top dollar, but you paid $1 million to put ductwork inside here. $1 million, okay? I'm pretty sure if I went back into that paperwork, because it always sticks, I got a good memory about numbers to stay in there. $1 million to replace all the ductwork that you replaced in this building. Okay? That wasn't not including
That was
the
probably
air
3 times-
handlers or anything else that would be
That was
going.
probably 3 times the cost because it was a hurricane and there was a shortage on materials and blah, 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 blah.
Could be, yeah.
Would we pay that to Beach Cathedral?
You hit it right on the nail.
Look,
And again, I can't say numbers because I'm not 100%
I'm not-
sure.
I-
It's not my trade, so I couldn't even tell you what that is, but I know it's very expensive, you know, from all the years of what I've been doing. For example, you got the same type of system that Deerfield has, okay? They're bigger than you. They got 200-ton chillers, okay? 2 of them, 400 tons to your 300 tons, okay? And so it's an expensive ordeal both ways. The other, with the heat pumps, it's a very expensive. I got 32 in Boca, okay, heat pumps. I look at that cost, it's in the millions of dollars, okay, if I had to do all that, you know. Brand new, off the ground. And again, I'm doing smaller things that I can remember off my top. Every time you do an electrical, okay, you have the plumbing right about it, okay. The mechanical is usually a little bit under, okay. So I did the Holiday Inn Express, and I remember it was $500,000, $600,000, okay. Electrical, plumbing was right on there, about 500 and something thousand. So the mechanical was 400 and something thousand, okay? So it depends, and this building is a little bit, they're different. Everything is different because everybody's got different types of runs. I couldn't even tell you, honestly. But that's how, they all run about the same, but off the ground, it's a lot cheaper than doing renovations, you know?
An aesthetic question about the ceiling tiles. If you were to take down half of the ceiling tiles to renovate and replace your ductwork, what are you going to replace the ceiling tiles with if these are 10 years old and have grayed because of dust and so forth, changing the color?
I think in the plan, you'll see there's a section inside there. If they're removing a certain part, it'll be up to the contractor, the ceiling contractor, if they can replace those ceiling tiles, or they'll have to replace everything.
Exactly. That's
Okay,
my point.
but it's already inside the plan. To minimize cost, okay, would say remove what you can if you could replace. If you can't, then we have to remove all, okay? I'm gonna say we can on this. The one in the theater, we might not be able to, okay, because of the type of grid, okay?
A few points, and I'm going to address this to you in a technical sense, but more to Monica in a financial sense. I cannot speak for the entire operations committee, but I will say you've got to defuzz these concepts and come up with line items and numbers. Now I will tell you that there is a growing consensus of opinion. All in all, you're building up millions of dollars in costs for property, Monica, that is not our own. We are renters. And I've heard the speech, the each, every, and all speech. I believe most of the people in this room consider that particular component, and in fact the majority of the lease, egregious, one-sided, and overbearing on the unit owners. It may get so bad as these numbers increase that we go to court and ask that this lease be tossed. And these leases have been tossed in the past. Now, I don't expect much of a response. Your company people, you gotta speak the party line. Bottom line is here, I don't think anyone is questioning the costs you're laying out there. What's questioned is who's gonna pay for it. There aren't many places in America where I, as a renter, am obligated to pay to maintain, upgrade, replace, repair someone else's property. So everybody needs, and feel free to speak up, everyone needs to understand. One, defuzz these numbers. We need something by budget time that's solid. We got to replace X, Y, Z, and what's it going to cost? All right? But from my point of view, and the point of view of some of the people in this room, I'm sure, is who should pay for it. In my humble opinion, the owner of the property should pay for it. And that would be the Benenson Capital Corporation in New York City. It's their property. I'm just a renter. Fair rental is one thing. Paying for this each, every, and all. You've really reached some numbers here that are staggering. And I only see this as just the beginning. It's a 50-year-old plus building. It's beat up. It's just the beginning. Air conditioning is just the beginning. All right? So I think I'll shut up now and let some others speak. And Dr. H, well, Monica, you want to?
Well, there's really not much I can say other than I don't have a crystal ball. None of us do. This is going to play out legally, and it'll be what it'll be. You know, it's going to be out of our hands, out of WPRF's hands, out of UCO's hands. It's going to be in the hands of the arbitrators or a court of law to decide what is egregious or what is overbearing, what is overreaching. And I do know that Dan is getting ready to put these plans out for bid so that we will have definitive numbers and we'll know down the road who, what, when, and where is going to bear the cost of that.
Action.
Sick Transit, Gloria Mundi. Go ahead, Dr. H.
Tuesday and Wednesday. The problems are not with Dan and Monica. I've conversed with both of them, and they provide the specifics. The problem is what happened 20 years ago. Benenson got a sweetheart deal, and they're going to fight like hell to keep it, and we will fight like hell to change it. But any questions about that millennium amendment and what's going to be happening in court, it's beyond, it's not their purview. It's not, as I just said, I wouldn't even bring it up. The numbers they're great with, and that'll bring up and re-bring up.
I'm glad you said it, because my job is to bring up exactly, just like we've done in the past too. I mean, if we weren't through this, I would have to bring up to you the chiller, okay, and the problem, and we'd probably put it into the budget, whatever it is. It'd be terrible if I was telling my job is to make sure that everybody's clear, because I wouldn't want somebody coming in here and saying, okay, wow, this needs done, this needs done too, okay? We've been trying to bring out exactly what needed to be done over the years.
Dan, every time I come up here and we hear about air conditioning, I'm sitting here freezing. It's pretty clear that the air conditioning appears to be working fine.
Yeah. It's funny because you go to different parts of every part of the rooms. Okay, this one you might feel good, but it could be a high humidity count because it's too cold. Okay, and that's where the VAVs come into effect. That's where the engineering comes into study about the hood to be able to see CFMs that are coming into accurately. Okay, and again, we know this from way back. Okay, that when we redid this back in the hurricane, it was not done right. Okay. That's and we've been working on this and trying to get this thing by. And 3 years ago, I don't know, it's been 3 years maybe, a little bit more, is when we did this study. Okay, knowing that we've had these problems, whether you're cold, whether you're hot, in different rooms, we were getting it all over. Okay, so we know we have a problem inside here. And in that interim too, you had other things that continue to keep having problems with. You have mechanical pieces of equipment that are always going to break down.
It was 4 years ago. Exactly.
September 2018 is the date of the letter from the engineers.
Yeah. So, again, we're here to discuss whatever, and the legalities are for other. I'm not even in the middle of any of
It's
this.
to your best interest and to ours, make the bill as high as we can.
Well,
That gives us,
As Dan says, this is above our pay grade.
yes,
So
way above pay grade.
we have different wheelhouses, and we're just trying to do what we're supposed to
I
do.
understand.
Yeah.
Got anything else for us?
I think that's everything, unless there's something else that I missed.
Did you have something, you were going over the contractors that are gonna be bidding?
Oh, yes, the contractors here.
Yeah,
In there, I gave them out. Just to remember, every one of these have to be bonded for the size of the job, okay? One was recommended by the engineer, and the other one was recommended by the other mechanical engineer, and the other one is the one that we actually did the theater work here originally when we did the portion of the theater. Pete Scafidi did this portion of it. We did the theater. And I can tell you that the theater, I know that it works out okay.
Whatever happened to Pete's Graffiti?
He's still probably up there in Chicago,
Yes.
probably hiding from the bullets up there, I don't know.
Yeah. He wasn't involved in quality craft anymore. Last we heard, he was off somewhere else, started some new company, I don't know.
Just as a point of concern and interest, do these engineers who are bringing forth these proposals know who is paying for them? And what do I mean? I mean, it's very easy to spend other people's money. Did these engineers know who pays for all these?
I mean, in the way of
I don't know
who,
how they would or why they would.
no, because especially the one for the mechanical, these two,
All right.
they're too big to, they're
It doesn't
too-
get us anywhere, really.
I think what you're saying is, rather than give us a Cadillac, we'll settle for a Buick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or Chevy.
I think maybe what you're saying is if they thought it were being paid by insurance money, the price is gonna be higher
Right.
than it would be otherwise. So,
I think by looking at the plans, okay, and I look at my other facilities, okay, they didn't go way over rock. What you're seeing putting in here is what they have out there right now.
Dan, would you say, I assume you're the point of the spear on some of these technical negotiations. Would you say you're working hard to get the best deal?
Of course, I even explained to the committee here, we decided to stay with the control system, okay, that we have, because if I change, there will be an extra cost, okay, from that. We brought it up with the engineers, okay, and that's why we stayed with this particular item. If I change and go to another control system, it doesn't matter. It seems like everything, like fire alarms down the road, the bigger companies are buying these places out, you know. But for the time being, what we're changing out from this company, even with the fire alarm or with the control system, it's reasonable, okay? If I go with Johnson Controls, Siemens, things like that, it's gonna cost big, gigantic amount. Just to bring up the fire alarm, okay? If we would have stayed with Siemens, okay, for what they would have to do to those 15 units, just to take those units off and on, okay, we're looking at $100 grand, okay? That's how crazy that price is. So yes, by going over it by this other company, we're probably bringing that down to about $30-some thousand, you know, by doing this. It's just the way Siemens is. It's very expensive. I saw the breakdown of what these guys were, you know, coming into, and when I talked to the Siemens guy, the rep that came in here, he looked at the plans, but he didn't really care. You know, I know that this is all new in here. I know for a fact that every device that's inside here was wired with new pipe and everything. Okay, so my concern was on those the lights. There's a certain light. It depends on what it is that you might have to change it out, and we didn't have to. Okay, so that means that all this guy had to do is just rewire everything to his new mechanism. There's certain things that he has to tie into, okay, so that's why the cost is what it is, okay? So, but no, I tried everything. Look, even though I went with the isoline over the vapor barrier, okay, it's because I know that it's not gonna work. It's just, it didn't work now, and it's not gonna work later if people are gonna continue to rip through that. I can't, you know, you got mechanical, you got electrical, you got everything above there, okay? And they were making holes left and right. We know for a fact that after that, that's one day cost and it's over with. Plus, it's going to insulate to make this cooler down here. So you're going to save it in the long run, okay? And that is, again, if whatever comes about this, it's about saving money to run this place, okay? Just like we changed slowly with the LEDs inside here. We didn't do it. I could have stayed and not done anything and said, hey, see you later, you know, until somebody brought it up, okay? But everything is to try to save the cost because it was coming out of your pocket. Okay? I mean, I have my obligations to Mark and everything, but my obligation also here, like I said, it's fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we do the things right, you know? And I'm gonna say over the years, I've made my mistakes, he knows, I've tried, but I'm one that say,
I'll tell you all my mistakes after I made them. I don't hide it, you know? I had a situation I remember in the hurricane back in 2005 with Deerfield. I ordered a set of doors for $13,000. I'll never forget, $13,000 to put these doors in prior to the hurricane. Well, the hurricane just knocked me out. I was all over. 6 months later, 7 months later, I'm like, what happened to the doors? You know, we went back and the guy went out of business. I had to sit in front of this committee that was hostile at that time, and I was going to tell them what happened. I can't lie about it. It just happened, you know? You know, I tried. We went after it with our attorneys, tried to close the business and shut down during the hurricanes, you know? And I said I was doing multi-million-dollar jobs, trying to fix everything out there. I wasn't worried about a $13,000 job to get it going through there. And when we did bring it up, all of a sudden, they were just gone, out of business, you know? Did I get a little repercussion from it? But, you know, I have to be honest and tell them there's nothing else I could do. Go after them with attorneys, do whatever we can to get the books. The same thing here. I mean, I think we've done a lot. And what we've had to work with, you know, what was handed to us. But I can tell you, just look at the one over there when we took it over, and look at the theater, okay? When I came here, and Monica will assess this, when we had to use those same units that were here because they were bought prior to me getting in here, but they had no engineering done, okay? No structural engineering done. We had to bring that all in. And that's why I say I don't know what happened here, okay, prior to, because I got brought in only for the redoing of the theater, okay? So, and if you go over there and look at the reports, there's nothing wrong with the theater. We're just changing those units out, okay, because of the age, okay? That's all I can say on that. Yes, we're definitely doing our best to keep that cost down and giving you a product, okay, that will last you 10, 15, 20 years from now. But again, even if I change that chiller out over there, okay, you're going to have maintenance issues and you're going to replace it in 15 years, okay? The water, we changed, another thing we did over the years was change the water quality, okay, inside here. We have a new chemistry inside there. That's what's keeping everything. When they opened up that chiller, there was no scale, nothing compared to the first time they opened up that chiller, okay? So at least we know that's working, you know? And we have pictures. Anybody's welcome to see that. I think Kevin has that, and also Devin, we're using that contractor, that union contractor since we did the chillers out there. A little bit pricey, but they're good, okay? The mechanics that come out here, okay, are 100% better than anything else that we have that comes in here that's non-union, okay? For the type of system you have chillers, there's not too many non-union companies that work on it, okay? Again, that's a cost factor, okay? Any other questions? Thank you.
How long will it take to get the bids in?
I'm trying to, because we did this little revision with the thing here, I'm giving them to the second week of July, okay? To get everything in, all right? So that's where we're getting. And the guys will sit here, and I bet, I can say one thing, you'll be surprised. That's all I can say, okay? In my head, I could keep something, but saying it out public, I can't, okay? But I just, you know, numbers keep on increasing, and it wasn't coming from my mouth, I can tell you that much, okay?
Monica, you know, the budget is coming up just around the corner. And I mean, I have nightmares of seeing 50, 60, 70% increases if all these numbers are cranked into it.
Well,
Right.
remember we had the budget for.
I mean, I can't get,
But wait for it.
we can't get a straight number yet. I mean, I've seen numbers from 2.4 mil to 5 mil.
Well, that's why in a couple of weeks, we will have these complete bids from these several different contractors, so that's gonna be a lot closer to accurate than even what was estimated 3 years ago, obviously, so.
And you're gonna have that 10 or 15% variable, but you
Everything
don't know
inclusive.
until you open up the walls.
Everything inclusive inside, as that report.
Whatever that number is, you gotta add at least 15%. And pray
Yeah.
that it doesn't become 25.
One thing, again, to the benefit of, we had the ability to walk through this whole place. And, you know, for the first time that I actually get involved a lot more here because of what's going on, to be able to hit every little cranny. Again, if you open certain areas, you're not gonna know. You get, you know, and plus, you don't know code-wise what they might have changed. I'm just now going through the ceiling up there in Boca, and there's code changes, you know, how you hang a hanger from a sprinkler, you know, so just,
I have a question on that. Are you gonna suspend a layer of polyisocyanurate to keep the upper part isolated from the lower part of the attic?
yeah, this is a, the isolate, you're talking about the isolate, right?
Yes.
Okay, it'll be sprayed onto the rafters,
Okay, so.
okay? And it is a porous isolate, so that means that, and I needed to do this because I researched it a little bit because I didn't want a solid pour.
Open
If it's
cell.
it's an open cell system, thank you. And if it was a solid, if I had a leak up there, it would not be able to come down through, and you could rot the wood and everything that's up there. Okay, so it is an open cell type system where I could see if I had a problem there with a roof leak, okay? All right,
So you decided on that rather than close?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing is that everything, all the insulation that's up there now, everything will be cleaned out completely, nice and just, that's part of the specification, to clean everything out of there completely.
I'll
Okay.
help you discover the termites.
Well, you know, that's one thing I didn't see up through there, and I was up there and almost died up there one time when they came up there. I will not go up to that ceiling, up there in that ceiling until the isolator is up there again, it's way too hot, you know? Yes.
How imminent is it necessary to do all this work? In other words, we were here at one time and we said, you better do it right now, we're getting hundreds of gallons of water coming out and it's costing us money.
Is it on? Yeah. I'm not asking cost or anything else. I just would like to know, we're talking about coming up with a budget, but how imminent is this work? Because we obviously are talking about a great deal of money. And we all know that this is an arbitration. So the outcome of the arbitration could have a major impact on what's being done and who's paying for it. That's my question.
And is your question is, what is the level of urgency?
That's basically it. I mean, the other time, it was, we have to do it now because the water was coming down and it was costing us X dollars. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, you're straightforward. You said we need this work. I don't think you're generating it. I think it's here. The question becomes a very simple one. Who pays for it? What percentage?
Again, the paying and all that is not mine.
I know it isn't, but
I can just tell you now, just because of the legalities just on some of the offices and stuff that I have for personnel, okay, and the humidity problems, the complaints over the years that we've had, the conditions that we're seeing, okay, in the party room and everything from the humidity readings that we're getting, yes, it's something that needs to be replaced. Now, look, we've been 3-4 years, people still complain. I'm luckily, to tell you to knock on wood, I have not had anything seriously with lawsuits, okay? But when you put people in those conditions, okay, which we have, all right, somebody sooner or later, okay? And if they come in here and take readings, we have, I can tell you, we have humidity problems, okay? We got a chiller now that's only running probably about 70%, 60%. Just what I just told you with the tubes, okay? How long is that chiller gonna last? I can't tell you how long that's gonna last, okay? It just eventually is going to go out. We know there's leaks in there. We can only block so many of the tubes. I'm telling you that. That needs to be replaced. When you decide to do that, all I can do is bring it up to you and say these are urgent things that we've been fighting for years and spending thousands of dollars trying to just patch it. And I think back in 2018, I think you brought it up. You answered your own questions. If you just go back in the history of all this, okay? We are all in this together. Just because of legalities, we can just be open with each other. I'm not going to hide anything on this. It's been going on, okay? And it needed to be done years ago, okay? If we wouldn't have brought it up 4 years ago if it didn't need to be done, because we were getting so many complaints and the cost of the repairs that we were doing to the existing air conditioning system. And we couldn't do anything but patch it because it was, again, to get above these ceilings, to try to change these ductworks, it's expensive. I hope I answered your question without any,
well, I think you have. No one has a crystal ball. If you had a crystal ball, you wouldn't be sitting here, you know. you'd be on top of the mountain counting the money. But I just wanted to get an idea because all this points to the same thing, that it's brought us to the point that we're going to arbitration. And we're not talking nickels and dimes, we're not talking $28,000 for the fire system, we're talking millions and millions of dollars.
Okay. And again, all I can say is in about another, 3-4 weeks, we will get an accurate number so that you can really specifically know. All this guessing, like I said, I didn't say those numbers up on the top, and I think something's been brought out a little bit twisted inside here, okay, from where we started this thing off. Again, let's get it. We'll be in 4 weeks. We will have a true answer to all this, okay? And again, I think you'll be surprised, okay? I mean, no matter what, it's a cost, okay? There's not a cheap net job, a cheap project. But, you know, let's just wait to that and we'll get that answer, and then we can sit and evaluate the bids, okay? And then go over everything in detail, you know?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
As far as urgency, I brought this up, like you said, 4 years ago, because we were doing repairs. We gotta repair this, the black pipes that broke, and this needed to be done, and we were spending money all over the place. And I brought up at one of the operations meetings, well, what is it going to take? Because we heard from you and from the experts that we had a problem with the air conditioning system. And back then, you said, it's failing. If it was failing 4 years ago, 4 more years have gone by, so things haven't gotten better, they've gotten older. So if we had a problem in 2017, the problem in 2021 is still there, if not greater. So there is a need for this to be taken care of.
Yeah, and the gentleman, I can't remember the gentleman we walked by, this is how you started your
Yeah.
whole increase. What was the gentleman that passed away?
Oh, Howard.
Howard, okay?
Howard O'Brien.
If you remember,
Yes.
we all
Yeah.
walked around here
Yeah.
saying that, you know, these pieces of equipment, okay?
Yeah.
Everything in 2005, remember, how many years is now, okay? Things, 20 years go by, you're supposed to start working on replacing these things just automatically if you're using them the way we're using them, you know? Okay, so it's not abnormal what we're trying to do here. It's just different associations work with different budgets, okay? And how you have just in your own condos, come on, to replace your roof, to do your parking lots, to do anything that you have to do to maintain your facility. It's the same way here, but this is a commercial piece of property that is used heavily by the residents here, you know? And I understand the legalities or whatever that is, but for the cost of this, whoever takes this on, it's gonna be a cost to maintain for years to come. It doesn't change. The only thing we could do is come up with the latest technology so we're not changing light bulbs all the time, come up with a more efficient system that works a little bit so they save money on electricity. We were just discussing how water is going to be gold here in another 10 years, okay, with base facility charges. Everything you can do to try to save money is the most important thing to keep your budgets down and low, okay? That's all I can say. Okay?
All I can say is that I'll be just as glad as all the rest of you to have all of this once and for all clarified, and so that we don't have the differences of opinion or, you know, language that can be interpreted various different ways, and we'll get there sooner than later and figure it all out.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.